Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Johns Hopkins School of Education Special Education Virtual Information Session. And please note that today we'll be focusing on the setup program. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We also have a faculty member of the Special Education Department, Dr. Rebecca Cruz, and Miss Brittany Mackle from Montgomery County Public Schools joining us today. And before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We'll be able to share a link to the recorded video within 10 business days. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the Q&A box and we'll read and answer your questions. I'd like to share the agenda for today's virtual information session. We'll start the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'll introduce Dr. Cruz, and Dr. Cruz will go over the details of the program. And then we'll cover admissions requirements, financial aid and scholarship, and Ms. Mackle will also cover information on tuition reimbursement. And finally, we'll leave the floor open for questions at the end. Here on this slide, we have some fast facts about our school. In addition to the fast facts, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. We're proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News & World Report. And for school enrollment, we have 1,741 students. We offer 25 graduate programs, and that includes our doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we have a strong network of over 24,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, we have 3 faculty members for the Special Education Department. And presenting today, we have Dr. Rebecca Cruz. Dr. Cruz joined JHU in 2021. Her research focuses on examining disproportionality in special education and discipline and in redefining the concept of inclusion from a perspective that considers disability not as an individual trait, but as a product of political, social, and historical practices. In a prior experience, Dr. Cruz worked in middle and high school settings to develop co-teaching and inclusion models. So at this time, I will hand the floor over to Dr. Cruz. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be talking with you today. Thank you so much for making the time. I want to start a little bit by just talking about our school's mission and what we're kind of aiming for with our programs. And that is just to address this critical shortage of special education teachers that is experienced in the United States these days. And this is true for the state of Maryland as well. It's true for DC and all of our surrounding areas, that states are reporting shortages in the area of special education specifically, and that this has really been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. So our goal, our mission with our programs is to make sure that we're sort of addressing this gap in filling this need for special education teachers, but that we send our teachers out into the field highly qualified and able to handle a wide range of needs that are demands of the job, so that they are able to persist and ultimately hopefully enjoy the job. So this is one of our key features of our mission for our program. And in order to do that, we offer 3 distinct pathways into the field of special education. So this way, you can kind of think about customizing your master's degree to meet your professional goals in all of these domains that really serve a significant need out in the field. So we offer a severe disabilities with an ABA focus. We offer an autism focus. And then what we're going to talk a little bit more about today is our mild to moderate disabilities focus. So if you are one of those folks who's on the meeting today and you're interested in applied behavior analysis or autism, those programs I can answer a little bit of questions about if you have them, but the contact would be Dr. Tammy Martyr. She runs those programs, and Dr. Shelton and I really focus on the mild to moderate program. So that's what we'll talk about mostly today. So the mild to moderate disabilities pathway is designed for candidates who want to serve students with disabilities, and gain an expertise in applying specialized techniques within a wide range of educational settings. So we've got a lot of folks in our program who are doing co-teaching models, who are doing pull-out supports. We've got some folks who are working in classrooms with students in separate settings, but that sort of access general education in different ways. So really a wide variety there of folks accessing our program. It's approved by the Maryland State Department of Education for initial certification in generic special education. So this means that we have two different tracks. We've got the elementary or middle track, and that covers grades 1 through 8. And then we've got the secondary or adult track, which is focused on grades 6 through 12. So when you apply, you specify which one of those programs that you'd want to do. And that's what you'll be certified to end up doing for your job. So that being said, there is an opportunity to earn your degree in special education with us without seeking certification. You can just do our master's program, and then your program would look a little bit different. But most of our candidates are in our program because they're seeking certification specifically. So this is a Maryland State approved program in order to do that. So our program consists of 13 courses. Most of our classes are taken by all candidates. Like I said, some folks that aren't necessarily interested in getting certification may have a pathway that looks just a little bit different than this. But these are typically the courses that most of our candidates take. Some of these classes are track specific. So for example, the spoken and written language class focuses on those who are doing the elementary to middle track pathway. Whereas our diversifying for the general ed curriculum is really only taken by our secondary folks. But for the most part, everybody takes all of these courses. If you could skip ahead there, thank you. And so and again, our career assessment and programming would be another example of a course that's only taken by our secondary candidates. So you can think of that as like a transition class that helps prepare candidates to support students who are transitioning from school into employment. So our coursework also includes 2 classroom or behavior management courses. It also includes 2 internships. And one of the nice things about the SETIT program is that if you're already employed and working in a classroom, then your internships can happen in those classes. So you don't have to kind of take another placement in order to do your internship. So we do offer courses in the summer, fall, and the spring. Our pathway, this SETIT program is really aimed to be a cohort model. So you would, all of the students that you're admitted into the program together in one term would kind of take the same pathway of courses throughout the 2 years in the same scope and sequence. All of our classes happen that are in the evenings because we are aiming to meet the needs of working professionals. And our face-to-face courses happen out at the Applied Physics Lab, which is in Laurel, Maryland. So if you're working in MCPS already, you kind of know that you don't have to commute all the way into the Homewood campus in Baltimore. It's all the way out there in Laurel. Roughly half to a little bit fewer than half of our courses are offered online. Some of those happen in a synchronous format, so you'll Zoom into the class. Those will happen in the evenings if they do offer the class that way. And then some of them are asynchronous. So you kind of work through the course on your own online. And that's just for the courses that are not meeting face-to-face. And I can talk more about that if there are questions. We do have some milestones to graduation. So for those who are seeking certification, through the course of the program, you'll complete the Praxis 2 assessment in special education, the Praxis 2 assessment in reading. All of our candidates complete a comprehensive exam, and that happens just before you start your internship experience. And that's just a sort of a content knowledge check to make sure that you've got the content and you're ready to go on and do the internship. And then while you're doing your internship, you'll complete the EdTPA portfolio. And that is really, you can think of the comprehensive exam as a knowledge measure, and then the EdTPA as sort of a practice measure. So we do an assessment to make sure that you're able to deliver instruction in a comprehensive way. And so if you are not seeking a credential, then instead of the Ed TPA portfolio, you would complete a graduate project. And that's kind of the equivalent of a master's thesis. You do have the option to complete that even if you're doing your credential, but you'd still have to do the Ed TPA. So if you're thinking maybe down the line, you might want to do an EDD or a PhD and you want to get some research experience, then you're welcome to opt into the graduate project, even if you're seeking a credential, although most folks choose not to do that, which is totally fine. So I will share a little bit here about the Special Education Teacher Immersion Training, or the SEDIT program. And we've got Brittany Mackel here who can answer maybe some more specific questions. Normally, Dr. Alex Shelton is the contact person for this program. I'm filling in for her today. So hopefully I'll have the answers to any questions that you have, but important to note here is that this program is a partnership with Montgomery County Public Schools. And so it's open to all permanent MCPS school-based employees. So in order to qualify for SEDIT, you need to be employed with MCPS already. Like I mentioned, it's a cohort program. So your cohort members would complete the program in 2 years, and you end that program with your master's in special education and your preliminary credential. The course of study is delivered in a prescribed series of courses that you take with the rest of your cohort. So you don't necessarily come in and sort of select from a menu of classes. The classes are set in a already, set out scope and sequence. And again, completion of this program allows for certification for generic special education for elementary and middle. So that's grades 1 through 8, or secondary adult. So that's grades 6 through 12. And that means that the SEDIT cohort members should have job placements that align with the appropriate grades. So it's really important to know that if you want to do your credential in elementary, but you're already working in a secondary classroom, like a high school classroom, you would need to do a different placement for your internship. So it makes the most sense if you're working in an area that aligns with your credential hopes and dreams. So that you can do your internship in that setting. Additionally, SEDIT allows teachers to complete their 2 internships in that MCPS classroom. So like I said, you don't have to go out and look for a placement, or you don't have to have us set up a placement for you. And then you also, of course, have access to your salary and benefits as an MCPS employee, as well as some partial tuition support, which Brittany Mackel will talk a little bit more about. And then one thing to keep in mind is that this is for official employees of MCPS. It doesn't really apply to substitute teachers. So important to note there. Okay, and some of the important things to note if you're thinking of applying, the ideal SEDIT candidate is someone who already has a bachelor's degree and is seeking initial certification along with their master's program through a state-approved course, which ours is, and that they're planning to serve students with disabilities and can commit to 2 years of intensive graduate coursework. So our coursework isn't considered an alternative pathway. It's an official pathway. It is graduate school. And so we're, when we do our initial interview with all of our applicants, when we're asking for is to really kind of dig in and make sure that you're aware that graduate school is a big commitment. It takes a lot of work, but we're here to support you through that process. And that our aim, again, is to make sure that you go out into the field fully prepared and able to persist in the field. So we're looking for people who can demonstrate that they're willing to work hard and study hard and be a part of the process and embrace it. So yeah, I will hand it back off, I think, to Sion.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. So we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. First, you'll need a 3.0 or better cumulative undergraduate grade point average. Applicants must submit a completed application, and the application can be found on the school's website. Keep in mind the application fee is $80. You'll need official transcripts from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. Again, we'll need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. An essay, an updated resume, 2 letters of recommendation from individuals who can speak to your work in the field of special education, And for the mild to moderate program, testing scores are required if your GPA is less than a 3.0. And please visit the Maryland Department of Education website for a listing of specific tests that are accepted. And lastly, an interview. Applicants who meet admissions requirements will be asked to interview to ensure that your goals align with the program goals before an offer of admission. And if your degree was completed outside the US, please keep in mind you'll need to complete a course-by-course evaluation, and that additional information can be found on the school's website. And the tuition for the Johns Hopkins School of Education 2023-2024 academic school year is $1,025 per credit for face-to-face and online courses. And keep in mind, for online courses, there is a $20 per credit technology fee. In addition, there's a registration fee of $175 per semester, and there's an application fee of $80 when you submit your application. And for additional information on tuition and fees, please visit the school's website. If you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage our students to apply for financial aid when you start your application. The School of Education, we offer a limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships each year, and these awards range on average from $800 to $3,000 per semester, and they are applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. And please keep in mind, in order to apply for the SOE Endowed Scholarship, students must complete the FAFSA form. To learn if you qualify for the Endowed Scholarship or have any questions regarding financial aid, please visit the school's website. And at this time, I'll hand the floor over to Ms. Brittany Mackel from Montgomery County Public Schools.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany Mackel. I am the Instructional Specialist for Higher Education Partnerships with MCPS. What that means for you is that I really serve as a liaison between, MCPS and Johns Hopkins. So if you have any questions about your employment status, if you have any questions about reimbursement, anything related to employment, I am your go-to person. In terms of MCPS tuition reimbursement is a benefit available to eligible employees. An eligible employee is one who is a permanent employee of the district working 20 hours or more. That means that if you are a substitute teacher, you are not eligible for MCPS reimbursement. We do, because this is a partnership program, have built-in approval to exceed the normal 9 credits of tuition reimbursement per fiscal year. So if you were to look at your negotiated agreement, you would see that ordinarily you'd be limited to that 9 credits. Because the SEDIT program is a partnership, you can exceed that so that you can finish a little faster. But there's actually 2 caveats to that. The first one is that credits beyond 9 credits each year count towards future reimbursement. So let's say you finish the SEDIT program and you decide, this was a great experience, I want to go get my doctoral degree. You would have to wait a few years because you kind of owe the county for fronting you that reimbursement. The second caveat is that you have to earn an A, B, or a C in order for MCPS to reimburse. So if you earn anything below a C, you will be responsible for paying that yourself. And the best thing to do, because we do understand that life happens, is to reach out to reach out to JHU as well as MCPS in order to just let us know so that we can put something in place to help you before you do fail a course. So if you have any questions about anything I said, feel free to put it in the Q&A or feel free to reach out to me directly and I am more than happy to help. And just, additional information, reimbursement is not automated. So that means you will need to pay for the course up front. And once you earn that passing grade, you will need to go ahead and submit for tuition reimbursement. If you go to the MCPS tuition reimbursement website, the process is outlined there. You should review that information, as the second bullet says, preferably prior to actually going through the process, so you are aware of all of the required documents and everything you need. And we actually do have an update. The current reimbursement rate is now $414 per credit. So just like it says, it's subject to change. It did change, but it changed in your favor, which is great. So we cover a little bit more. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Mackle and Dr. Cruz. So we are now going to open up the floor for questions. Please type your question in the Q&A box. So the first question we have is, hello, do we have to pass the practice test before we start? And that is for, and Dr. Cruz, do you want to speak on that?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. So as part of our program, you have to pass the Praxis 2 before you complete the program. So we can't award you the certification stamp until we have evidence that you've passed that, but you don't have to do it before you start. If you meet certain conditions, which I don't know, hopefully Sion, maybe but like there's a GPA requirement that if you meet, you don't have to pass the Praxis 1. We can waive that. Maybe.
Yes, that is correct. So if your undergraduate GPA is over 3.0, then you do not need to take the Praxis 1 exam. And while we wait for questions, Dr. Cruz, we get this question a lot for the Master of Science in Special Education Mild to Moderate Disabilities program. What is like the average completion rate for this program? How long does it take to complete the program if you're working full-time and then going to school part-time?
Yeah, it is designed for working professionals. So it's definitely organized in a way that you can work full-time and complete the program within the allotted scope and sequence. And it's meant to be a 2-year program. There are some circumstances where we've had folks, have some kind of extenuating circumstance happen where they've needed to extend a little bit. And so it is possible to spread it out a little bit more and take 3 years if needed. We have very rarely had anybody go longer than 5 years, but it's designed as a 2-year program, and it's designed for you to be able to accomplish it within the framework of also working full-time in a classroom. So yeah, all of our courses are in the evenings. So, and they're kind of just built for you to be able to complete your coursework in the evenings while you're working during the day. So hopefully that answers what you were getting at.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the next question we have is about the essay for the application.
Sure. I think that this question might be asking, what is the essay about? And it's really just a general essay. So what we're looking for in your application and in the interview that we do with all of our people that we're thinking of admitting is to just make sure that you're a fit in terms of understanding that it is graduate school and that it takes a commitment and it takes some work. And B, that you are a fit with sort of our philosophical paradigm, which is that you aim to support students with disabilities, that you have an asset-based perspective about those students that you would be working with, and that your goals align with the goals of our program. So our essay is really, I think, pretty general, and it'll ask you, what's your experience and what are your goals, things like that.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. And I would like to add, for any the admissions requirements for this program can be found on the school's website under the admissions tab, and also can be found on the actual program page as well. On the right side, you'll see admissions deadlines and requirements. And we also had some students who joined us a little later. So can this program be completed completely online, or is it like a mixture of online courses and face-to-face courses?
Sure. Currently, the program is a hybrid program. So we have about half of our classes that happen online, which means they either meet via Zoom in the evenings once a week, or you do it all asynchronously and kind of just work on your own, and your instructor gives feedback throughout the week. And then the rest of our classes, about half of them, meet face to face at the Applied Physics Laboratory. So they're out in Laurel, Maryland. You don't have to commute all the way into the Homewood campus in Baltimore, but they do meet in person roughly once a week. So it's not totally all online just yet.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. Do we have any questions for Ms. Mackel? Oh, we do have a question for Ms. Mackel.
Yeah, that was perfect timing.
Right. Okay.
So the
I think this
question
is for you.
The question in the chat is, after we get the master's degree, do we need to pay back the tuition reimbursement if we leave MCPS? Very good question. You do not need to pay back the tuition reimbursement. I will say that if for whatever reason you leave before paying the last bill, or you leave and then try to apply for reimbursement for your last course, MCPS will not pay, because at that point you are no longer employed. But you do not owe us any time for completing this program, although we would love for you to stay with us throughout the duration of your career. You do not owe us any money back. If anything, the only thing to be aware of is just that because MCPS is fronting you some tuition, once you finish the program, you will need to take a little bit of time before applying for reimbursement again. But when you leave, you do not owe us anything.
That was a really good question. All right, any more questions? I'm going to move to the next slide. So it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you again for your intro. Hold on real quick. Oh, okay, it was a comment, right? So thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Here on this slide, we have some very important contact information. If you have any questions about your application, feel free to reach out to the Office of Admissions. Here's the our email address and phone number if you want to follow up on your transcripts or just have questions about your application. If you have any program-related questions or would like to contact the faculty member, please reach out to Miss Julianne Taylor. She's the program coordinator for the academic coordinator for the special education department, and her email address is on this slide. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Thank you to Dr. Cruz and Ms. Mackel for a wonderful presentation. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.